the music's over, when the music's over here. When the music's over, turn up the lights, turn up the lights, turn up the lights. Yeah, yeah. When the music's over, when the music's over, when the music's over, turn up the lights, turn up the lights, turn up the lights. Put the music in your special friend, dance on fire, it intends. Music is your only friend. Until the end, until the end, until the cancel my subscription to the resurrection. Send my credentials to the house of detention. I got some friends inside. The face in the mirror won't stop. The girl in the window won't drop. A feast of friends.
Welcome everybody. This is Mental Madness. I'm your host, Mad Max. I really like that intro. I'm excited about some of the new work that I'm going to be doing, some of the things I'm going to be setting up, and I'm really excited about today's podcast show, because we're going to get into some darkness now, guys. Some fucking mental madness! That's right. Mental madness, folks. So, we're going to get into what I would consider to be future World War III today, and the fight for control and resources all over the planet Earth. And a lot of the stuff that I've been metaphysically speaking about lately kind of ties into the reason why things are going on here on planet Earth, and why we're reaching this economic state of terribleness and this very war-weary nation of ready to attack. So, World War III is something that everybody fears, obviously, but they don't really fear it imminently. They fear it in the back of their mind. They really push it aside as if, it'll come someday, but maybe not today. For now I just got to deal with life. But the problem is that your government is doing a lot of terrible things on behalf of representing you as a people, and causing many distortion fields within many countries around the world, and purposely to infiltrate those countries, to also take away their resources if they have any, and to also democratize them underneath our new world order. Control over all. And, no nation has the sovereignty with the United States. The United States does what they want, they go where they want, and do however they want to do it as well, So we have to understand, folks, that World War III is being perpetrated right now by the Dark Cabal government. And it's not so much that they want it to start it to cause mayhem. They want to start it to, in the end, ultimately control everything. Because with war comes lots of money and power and control. And these decisions don't get made by you, they get made by people a lot higher than you, and then your whole life changes because of the decisions that these people make. And war is something that we don't declare as a nation until our leader gets up there and spews out bullshit. So, but don't get me wrong, if you want to threaten my nation, me being a soldier of our military, then you best be prepared to have the fight of your life. Because if by some chance you do get through the U.S. military, you gotta deal with a bunch of veterans like myself, who know how to operate these weapons, who know how to become the backup units for our military if they ever should fall. Which I never think would happen. But if our military were to turn on us, say against something like martial law, then it is our obligation as free civilians to inform all of our military buddies, hey, you have an obligation, you have a duty to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And sometimes the domestic part can get you in a lot of shit. But it has to be done. And our military men and women in uniform, who I respect very much, and myself been through the military and a veteran, and actually fought for this country, or fought for the ideals of this country, which were not my own. And at the time, we want war to create economic disturbance or to create economic value. We want war to create differences between ideological differences between two different groups of people. And it's so, like I said, nobody's going to help you in this life. You have to really figure out yourself how you're going to guide your path in this life. And things are going to get thrown at you all the time. And you have to learn how to deal with them. And sometimes it's really emotionally and physically and mentally hard to deal with these things. So it's important that people meditate, that they take into consideration that remote viewing is very real, remote viewing being meditating, that the government uses remote viewing to make contact with extraterrestrial beings, and that they use it as well to predict future events. And that they have supercomputers that also predict future presidential candidates, as well as, based on mathematical numbers of who has a certain amount of money, who's popular in what area of the Congress and what area of the civilian public. And, these computers determine pretty much our future. And we need to move away. We need to have these computers, and we need to use these things for the right reasons, but we need to move away from using them to empower only certain individuals and not others. And that's the problem here. The World War III is an information war. It's a spirituality war. It is the beginning of revelations. We are in revelations right now. We're learning secrets about science and about the universe and about the Creator that we never could have imagined. So I do believe that we are currently living in hell on earth. famine, pestilence, disease. I believe that America seems very well protected right now. We were a God-fearing nation who's starting to slowly slip away from that. And a God-fearing nation, not meaning, we're all religious nuts, freaks running around being like, oh man, just accepting, hey, if I created my children, then it's possible someone created us. So, you have to take that into consideration. We can't make this about, oh, well, I believe you, you believe me. No, it's just fucking common sense. There was a creation. There was a creator or creators. And we need to figure out who, why, what, when, and where. We exist, and we are discovering these things. But the government specifically wants to start world wars to distract us from the true purpose of life. To distract us from the reality of things. That's why TV was created, to distract us from the reality. It was a brainwashing system that the government uses, still today, with propaganda, media propaganda, and bullshit, brainwashing. With marketing of stupid products. With throwing homosexuality in your face, even though if that's their business. That's their trip, I don't care. You don't need to be reporting on how the first gay athlete in the NFL is coming out. Who cares? That's his trip. Like Alex Jones says, that's his deal. That's his whole fucking shit. And I'm tired of it getting thrown in my face as if I'm supposed to just accept it as in my life. Even though I don't want nothing to do with it yet. It's being bombarded on me. It's okay. Here you go. Throw this in your face. Here's two dudes kissing on TV all fucking day. Or here's two girls kissing on TV all day. And whether it's PG or PG-13, don't matter anymore. All of that shit's in everything. They just tone it down to certain levels. Soft porn, you would call it. Or soft, what do you call it? Soft propaganda. There you go. Soft media propaganda. And it's terrible. The things that I pick up on, the things that I see, the things that some of these commercials say and try to get out there, some of them are good. There are some good commercials out there that are doing the right thing, But for the majority, most businesses out there are in it for themselves, in it to make a quick buck, and don't really give a shit about you. So, you have to understand, folks, it's not only World War III is this launch missiles and shoot people up kind of war, but it could be very well that kind of war in the end. With Iran, with Russia, with China, things are getting hot. It's just heating up. And with China and Japan having problems, and with Syria, and with all of these Middle Eastern problems arising, and even people within our own country rising up against the government. You see that there is a mass awakening going on this planet. You see that the paranormal communities are actually not crazy. You see that the research and the people who put all their reputations on the line, all their work, hard, creativity and ideologies are now coming out, and everybody's starting to shake their heads, and well, yeah, maybe we could put our ideas together and see if it works. And the problem is that we've been living this one book, this one life. And I'm not saying that the Holy Bible is wrong, or that I'm saying that it is deified. That human beings deified natural events that happened on this planet. And not natural events to the sense that they were random, but natural events to the sense that ETs, different density beings, different, creation sources, different technologies existed, different ideas existed. People had better brain usage of their, human beings were more one with the Creator, meaning we understood how and why we were here, what our main goal was. There was no wars, there was no famine, there was no disease until, the problem is, folks, is that disease and evil spreads like a virus. It spreads from one person's mind to another. And if a kid sees another little kid steal a chocolate candy from the convenience store, then that kid sees that kid get away with it, and well, he thinks he's going to do it too and get away with it, and then he tries and gets caught. So the problem is that you have to understand, mental stimulant must be controlled at all times, and you must teach your children that you have a mind, and that when it thinks, it may act as it thinks, instead of thinking and then acting, which is what I would call slow thinking. Most of the time, we do fast thinking, which is we act on our own thoughts immediately. And sometimes that's a good thing in certain situations, but again, and a lot of times, it's a really bad thing to do. So when you're studying for a test, you're doing lots of slow thinking, but you're only studying a certain area of information. Even though there's the information around you, you just have no idea. Information is always floating around you. It's in what you would call the zero-point energy field, and the government knows about the zero-point energy field. And we can get into what the zero-point energy field is, but we won't get into that today because that's a whole nother subject, and I really want to cover that pretty deeply. But the government is aware of zero-point energy field. They know how to use it. The zero-point energy field is basically an area in the universe with which all knowledge is accessible. Meaning, it's the energy field that everything exists in. All knowledge, everything that will and ever happen, it will happen. Every piece of information that exists in this universe is inside what's called the zero-point energy field. It's the base motherboard program for the universe, supposedly. And you can actually move through the zero-point energy field back and forth through time. You can also travel through the galaxies without even using a ship through these techniques called remote viewing, and pretty much you don't go physically to these places, you mentally go to these places through what's called the zero-point energy field. And you could actually have discussions with other selves inside these zero-point energy fields, and there are actual beings somewhere in the universe, and maybe even somewhere else in a different galaxy or within our own. But, people sleep, and when they reach REM stage 4, their pineal gland activates, and they have dreams, and they have visions, and most of the time, these are the same places. This is the zero-point energy field that I'm talking about. When you reach REM stage 4 in your sleep stage, that's when you're allowed to have these dreams, these visual and auditory things that happen to you. And because you're in the zero-point energy field and the information is so much, dreams can come to you completely random to you. Well, they will come to you completely random and unexplainable because the zero-point energy is filled with so much information. For instance, if I fall asleep one night and have a dream that I was riding on the back of an eagle flying through some beautiful country and I saw a nuclear bomb go off in the distance, about 3 or 4 miles away. I could feel the heat off my face. This is a real dream, by the way. I could feel the heat off my face. But, I got carried up in the winds up into the, into the sky by this eagle. That information came from the zero-point energy field. And I didn't focus necessarily on that, but there are methods and techniques to focus on certain areas in the zero-point energy field and certain information within the zero-point energy field that the government can tap into and has been, and reverse engineered and remote viewed this technology. I promise you it's going on, it's happening right now. And the things that people are discovering is that, if we can just talk to other beings every night in our dreams through a natural process of meditation, which is REM stage 4, which you can achieve through natural meditation as well. I don't know about REM stage 4, but there are ways to get your mind and to your pineal gland to activate to where you can have visual and auditory experiences during your waking conscious sleep self, because what happens is when you close your eyes, the light does not get into your eyes, and that sends a signal to your brain to release either, I think it's melatonin, into your pineal gland, which then where your pineal gland releases melatonin and causes you to go into a hibernatic state of consciousness, literally sleeping. And so you could achieve that while awake as well, with much practice and meditation practice. And I can promise you that these things are very real, and you will see very powerful and experience very powerful things, even without the use of drugs. Some drugs help amplify it, some don't. Some are very bad. Drugs, period, if you're just not a responsible person, you shouldn't even really begin to tinker with. Being responsible, I don't know. It's up to you. This life is yours, and there are different ways to achieve knowledge. That's all I have to say. But we'll get back to the World War III. The government has this information. They use this information against you on a daily basis, and they want to start media war propaganda to get you to think and act a certain way. And they've been discovering Scientology for a while. They've brought the two together, science and religion. They've finally found the answer that yes, there is a creator or a creation process. Information that's much more intelligent than us. Yes, there are extraterrestrial beings who are from different densities, or even our own, or even lower density beings, all over the universe. And that yes, that we can colonize, and we need to be thinking about where we're going to be moving, because eventually our sun's going to die, and we need to be thinking about how human beings are going to survive through all of this chaos that we live in. Or if we're even supposed to survive, and that's the whole point, that if there is a spirituality warfare, and negativity wants to harvest the souls, which the Law of One speaks of, because with bloodshed and death, a soul is harvested. So if you have a massive moment where massive souls are being harvested, this is like a boost to either side of the army. You see what I'm saying? A positive or negative energy. So if the soul was a negative entity and it dies instantly, it's going to go to the negative, fourth density negative. Whereas if the soul was, and we won't even get into that. That's just speculation, and I'm not sure about that. But the Law of One does also say that during nuclear explosions, the soul has a problem passing through to the next density. So this is not a good thing. This may be a way of stopping us from ascending or transitioning to fourth density positive by way of third density negative measures trying to stop us. And sometimes not even consciously aware that they're doing what they're doing, that they're part of this grander scheme of understanding reality. But the question is, you have to ask yourself, guys, do you know everything? No. I don't know everything either, folks. Have you seen everything that exists in the universe? No. Do you know everything that could be possible in the universe? No. And so you have to understand, folks, that we are dealing with information hoarders. And it's not just the government. There are private securities out there, private scientist groups, private banksters who spend lots of money investigating and discovering these things. And they don't want you to know it exists, because then you could have a remote viewing, a piece of equipment in your room to help you communicate with these other beings, or to help you reach out and understand the truer knowledge of the universe and truer knowledge of who and what you are and why you're here. And we've infected our race with cancer and diseases and parasites and viruses, and we need to find the technology to cleanse ourselves of these, come back to the pure natural being state of human. Now, I'm not saying being dumb, stupid, or I'm just saying we need to be consciously aware of the things that are happening to us, the food that we're eating, how we're eating. You have to understand that food and drink is only the the fuel source that drives this physical shell, this physical vessel that you're contained in. It's just a fuel source. And too much of it could, excuse me, obviously cause you problems. And too little could also cause you problems. Run out of gas. If you have too much gas, you flood the engine. So, you got to make sure that you're eating properly. And you got to make sure that your diet and your weight and everything in your life, and it's not as easy as I make it sound it to be, make it sound, because some people just have, hereditary problems. So, and that just stems from a long generation of impureness. When I say impureness, I don't mean in any specific race. I mean as the humankind as a whole. Impureness. We've just tainted ourselves. We've exposed ourselves. We haven't built the suits to protect ourselves from radiation, to protect ourselves from diseases. We haven't built the technology that really takes mankind to the next step of evolution. If there's cancer floating around me, then why the fuck are you not wearing a suit? If there's viruses floating around me, then why ain't I wearing some cool suit? And, to protect me from these things. And instead of blowing up Syria, and instead of blowing up half of the fucking world with your war machines, why aren't you building us these suits to protect us so we're not dying? Why aren't you finding ways to generate food? Why aren't you finding more efficient and clean ways of keeping the atmosphere clean? Why aren't you finding different ways to go mine exoskeleton planets that are just covered in diamonds and gold with no life on it at all, just waiting for somebody to come scoop it up? And the government is doing these things. And they say we're poor all over the world, but they use this as a way of controlling us. People will get scared if the money runs out, and they act irrational, start making decisions that they don't need to. And if the government put their money, time, and investment into mining these exoskeleton planets, you don't have to send man to them. You could send robots to do this shit. We can build the robots. We could build the machines. Instead, we're building warships. But, we have to protect ourselves from some of the ugly peeps out there. And that's who I'm really trying to get to. People all over the world, not just here in America. Everywhere. You need to personally wake the fuck up and realize the false paradigm you've been living in. And to realize that everything that you have on this planet, and everything that you love, everything you're spoiled with, and cherish, and care about so much, is nothing compared to the next life. But that's only, I believe, if you graduate here. And it's not so much, it's just a checks and balance thing. There's no biasness to it. There's no bias as to whether you pass the class or not. You either pass or you don't. And there's not going to be somebody say, well, you almost made it, but you didn't. No, you either you will have something to provide the fourth entity, or to provide the creator, or you have nothing to provide the creator. And that's why you were created, to provide for the creator. And, and maybe he's still learning himself through us. Or itself through us. And you have to understand that the energy that drives you is the energy source of the creator. And the Big Bang, and the creative process that happened. And who flicked the switch, we don't know. Who generated the energy to begin with, we don't know. We need to find these things out. Higher density beings do know these things, because they're mathematically and scientifically much more advanced than we are. So if they came to our planet and said, yeah, well, we kind of communicate more with the Creator than you do. So yes, we're angels. And we control your land, and we can make you do what we want. And I don't think that that's what happens. I think they came here, we accidentally saw them, or we sucked them in with our bullshit. I mean, that's what the Bible says. They came here just to watch, just to observe. ETs just sitting above our planet in their scout ships just watching. Oh, that's cool. Look at all those little beings down there. And then one of them little fucks got stupid and said, oh, I'm going to go down there and say hi. And we sucked him in like a motherfucking, what do you call it, black hole. And they said that the angels saw the women of the land, and they were so fine and so beautiful that they had to come down and fuck them. So they got sucked in. These were not perfect beings from heaven who sit next to God, okay? These beings could make mistakes themselves, and they did. And they paid the ultimate price. Therefore, we had what's called demigods, or giant humanoid creatures on this planet at one point in time. And these are speaking of in the Bible. And there's many mythological stories about Hercules and really strong, powerful, demigod-like beings. That's because, you know, these were mixtures of extraterrestrial, maybe higher density beings. And, you know, for instance, if I were to come from a planet with a gravitational pull of, say, 50 times stronger than planet Earth, and I came to planet Earth, my body would be used to the 50-time gravitational pull, but yet I would be on a, like, say, 25-time less gravitational pull planet. Therefore, I would be superhuman, or super being. And the fact that my muscles would be, you know, double. If ours was 25 and theirs were 50, they would be double our size, double our intellect. Or, you know, you have to understand, folks, you just don't know. And you have to do the research. You have to learn. And in order to do that, you have to open your eyes. You have to open your mind. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of your religion. Christianity, I'm for Christianity. I have a lot of beliefs in my own personal life, in my own personal experiences that link and tie to some of the ideologies of Christianity. And even Muslim, and even Buddhist, and Hindu. I like to tie them all together. I believe all of them are certain areas where they're right and certain areas where they're wrong. So, but many people have to realize that there's still yet undiscovered things to us as the population. All over the world, your governments are keeping secrets from you. They're holding this information from you. The Catholics, the Roman Vatican, the Pope has been secretly hiding this information from you. And there's not going to be much more time before all of this stuff comes out. And they're completely exposed and called for what they were, which was liars. They hoarded this information for themselves, thinking that they were the ones able to handle the situation by themselves. And they've taken it to a very corrupt, negative, brainwashing level. Now, I'm all for worshiping the Creator. And not in that sense worshiping Him, but appreciating who and what I am and how I got here. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference between worship and appreciation, and true generosity and kindness. Worship is, you know, you don't have an individuality to you when you worship something. You know, and that's the whole reason why you have free will as an individual, is to experience life yourself and not as the Creator. And maybe one day we all will be the singularity again and experience life as the Creator itself. But when the universe recollides and becomes the singularity again, maybe at that point will the Holy Spirit be one again, and we'll experience life as a sleeping giant, really realizing that we were the Creator the whole time and didn't even know it. And that so much stuff that he learned from the experience that happened. And who knows how long his time scale this experience really happened, or its time scale. Again, it could be an energetic thing. There is physics that, you know, we only have a third density body. We can only fathom within our third density brain a certain amount at this point in time. So we can't even picture what physics would be like for the Creator, or what life would be like for the Creator, if there even was a life, or if it was just a universal consciousness. You know, I do believe the universe is a living being, that there is a constant war over certain areas of the being, in that certain areas of the being have much more potential than others, and that, you know, there may be a brain of this being, and that if we could tap into that brain, which I believe is a 0-point energy field, the brain source of the creator. And that's why, you know, everything and anything can come to you in that state of mind. So we have to open it up. We have to take it to the next level. We have to expose the corrupt politicians, the corrupt gangsters, the corrupt private funds, foundations that are pulling this, David Rockefeller, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. You know, these guys, Bilderberg, they're really trying to pull you down. They know this information. They're on the opposite side. They want to be the one that stops all of this from happening, because they know that, you know, they're not going. And that they want this life, they love this life, they love the things in this life. They want to live forever here, literally be droids, androids, and merge with machines and become cyborgs. This is already being talked about by Google. It's already being talked about by private companies out there in Russia. People want to really live this third density life forever. And, you know, it's important to live a long third density life, because the more information you receive, the better. And it's important that we're not killing each other and starting World War III here. What we need to do is start a World War understanding and a World War reach out. That's what I would call it, a World War reach out. Just reach for the stars and greet the universe. Because first contact will come. It's just a matter of when the human beings are ready for it. It's when we're ready to mentally step outside the box and say, okay, well, we're not cave monkeys beating on the ground anymore. Let's take this to the next level. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, because, again, I got into the metaphysical aspect a lot, but I really want to put it down to you like this. There's evil fucks who are literally living a mental madness game, who are living in a mental madness paradox, a paradigm. And inside their head, they have these ideologies, and they enforce them because they're in power and control. And they paid a lot of money, and they fucked over a lot of people to get to this position. So, wake up, America. Not all of them are bad. Some of them are good. And I really hope that more of them become good and start waking up. But you need to wake up yourself. You need to be a constituent to your congressman. You need to be a constituent to your country ambassador. You need to be a constituent to the universe. You need to say, hey, I'm awake, I'm aware. Things are not exactly the way they should be. I'm not doing exactly what I think I need to be doing. And instead, I'm being forced to be a educational slave, and a monetary slave to this economic world that I live in, which is not the only thing that exists in the universe. And, money was created to help bring us together so that we could create new resources and create new ideas. That's the only reason I think money was created in the beginning. It was a way of me and you coming together and sharing our ideas and maybe bringing certain things together so that we can build new things, create new things. And I think we've taken money to a whole different level. I think it's become the only thing that we live for and live about. We're losing touch with the creative process. We're losing touch with the creation. We're pushing war agendas, war propaganda. We're poisoning food and water with growth hormones and fluoride. We're really trying to destroy the universe as if we're just some massive devil who just doesn't give a shit, swinging our tail, thrashing around like an angry little child brat who don't want to listen. But it's not even that. It's more we've been dumbed down. It's not your fault so much that you haven't known none of this stuff. And I really hope that you take the time to start learning some of it. It is more real than you think it is. There are more whistleblowers out there coming out. There are more government officials coming out. There are more people all over the world speaking out about this. And you know what? The more people that do, it'll spread. An idea spreads. And when it spreads, and if it's a good idea and it spreads, well, we can come together as a community and do the right thing. And we all have different ideas and approaches, and we need to work on how and who and what. And putting our heads together instead of separating our ideologies is the way to go. You know? And I would really love if everybody took the time to think about how precious it is to even exist. And how precious it is to stare at your child and know that you created that child through action and reaction. You did. You created that child through action and reaction. And so the Creator created you in the beginning. And so you have to fucking wake up, folks. Wake the fuck up. Stop being dumb sheeple. Stop walking around with your fucking head looking down. It's time to hold your head high, realize who and what you are, what this universe is, what it represents, and take your mind to the next level. This is Mental Madness. I'm your host, Mad Max, and we'll see you next time, folks.